Welcome to our Wellness Wednesday Health Show. I'm your host, Dr. Kala Hewlett from the Back Pain and Joint Center of Texas, and we are at the start of December. And before we get going with our special guest today, I want to send a reminder out. We now have new treatments covered by Medicare to help get rid of your joint pain without surgery. If you haven't already, be sure you contact our front desk and our team here. That way they can find out if you have coverage and help get rid of your pain without surgery. Now for today's guest and our special show. Before I introduce him, because I know you can see him, it's a topic that is one of my favorite topics, which is food. It's a topic that everybody loves, but I have found from talking to patients, it is one of the most misunderstood topics, is food. Why do we eat? What do we eat? And so forth. So I'd like to welcome Joshua Reed from the Montgomery Farmers Market to our show today. Joshua, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you founded the farmers market that is now in Montgomery every Saturday morning, correct?
Yes. Yes, I do.
What is a farmers market? How's that different from a grocery store?
So a farmers market is basically a collective of local vendors who come together in an effort to provide their local community with products ranging from produce to meat to artisan crafts and things like that, whatever they provide. And the goal of a farmers market, generally speaking, is to connect the local community together. And that's super important, especially when it comes to food, because as you know, and many of your clients probably know as well, you have to be able to know what goes into the production of your food in order to be confident that you're getting something that is healthy for you and your family. And so
so let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
What would be the difference in the quality of food that I may find at the farmer's market as opposed to going to one of the normal grocery stores, the big chains?
Yeah, that's kind of a two-part question, because it depends on the quality of products that are being brought to both.
Okay.
So at the grocery store, you have two options usually, right? You have certified organic and you have non-certified organic. Non-certified organic is going to be generally, almost always, covered in pesticides and insecticides, herbicides, things that we know through research generally have a harmful effect on the body. Organic is more naturally derived, it's naturally grown, doesn't have the same level of chemicals. They have to go through a certification process to make sure that those products don't have the same level of chemical use on them. At a farmer's market, you have the same thing. You have products that are organic and you have products that are non-organic, people who use more of a commercial or a traditional route to produce their products. But the difference is that a lot of the small-time farmers are not certified because it's a long process and it costs about $6,000, takes about a year. And also a lot of times they are even more vigilant about what they do because they're such a small operation, and they're able to pour their heart into it, if you will. The other big difference is that at the store, the produce that's there has typically been there about a fortnight. It's been there about 2 weeks. And so by that point, you have lost, I think it's about 50% of the nutritional value in that produce. So while yes, there's a wide variety at the store and you can get things from all over the world, it's not going to be the same quality as something that you get at the farmer's market. If you can find an organic vendor at a farmer's market, or somebody who's saying that they use organic practices, that is going to be much more nutrient dense than what you get at the store.
What's so cool of these farmers markets is you're actually talking to the farmer. You know, most of them, it's not a salesperson, it's the farmer or someone in the family of the farmer, and they're like, hey, this is our blood, sweat, and tears. This is their passion.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. The first farmer's market I ever went to was in Northern California. I had just gotten out of school. I was doing a training program with a doctor up, and this was about 2 hours north of Sacramento, so North California. And they would have a farmer's market in the main town square like every Thursday night. And I remember going there, and whatever produce they had, whether it was peaches or oranges or apples, like it was the most rich and delicious fruit ever. And my wife and I was like, this is amazing. It's so good. And I contrast that to sometimes I'll go to the grocery store, and if I get strawberries, And I know you've done this. You take a bite of a strawberry or an apple, you're like, this has no flavor, which means it has no nutrients. It's nutrient poor. So even though you're getting your required number of fruits and veggies, you're not getting the nutrients inside your body. And that's why I said this is one of the most confusing topics, because culturally, I think we've looked at food just totally goofy in this country. And I always tell patients, would you go to the gas station and just start pumping gas and letting it spill over on the outside of your car? And they're like, no. I said, well, okay, why not? They said, well, that's just a wasting. And it's the same thing. We consume food that we don't need, and that's this obesity is one of the big epidemics. The second thing I ask patients is, well, gas is rising in prices, but Dr. Pepper is still on sale for 99 cents a liter. Would you ever consider putting the Dr. Pepper and saving some money into your car? And like, well, no, that's ridiculous, right? I put Dr. Pepper in my car, right? That would ruin the engine. And then I pause for a moment, and they're like, if it's ruining your engine, all right, what's it doing to your body? And so the quality of the food that we consume is designed to fuel our bodies. And you talked about nutrient dense, nutrient poor, so forth. How would you best explain that to someone who's watching this and just trying to get a grasp of, they're wanting to eat healthier? They've got, okay, organic, non-organic, this is going to be better nutrients. Like, go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so the main thing that you need to understand about produce, especially about all food, is that the food actually needs to eat as well, right? So when it's growing, it is pulling in its food, its nutrients from the ground, and depending on what is available to it, that determines how much nutrients, how much nutrition is going to be in that piece of produce or other food when you eat it, and that determines how much your body has available to it to use as well. So depending on the practices of the farmer, you can either have really high nutrient density or really low. The farmers that we have at Montgomery Farmers Market do an especially good job of making sure that the soil that they are planting in is always nutrient dense, and they do that through things like rotation. So they have their crops on a rotation, or they do things like compost teas, which puts nutrients back into the soil, or they do things like trace mineral. They add trace minerals to the soil. And so all year long, in fact, one of our farmers invests hundreds and hundreds of dollars every year into nutrients, purchasing nutrients so he can refill the soil with what it needs.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes so much sense when you said we have to feed the produce, and whatever we feed them is actually what we consume. It makes so much sense, but I've never heard it explained that way or thought about it that way. So the better quality the fruits and veggies, whatever they're being fed, the better quality actually gets into our body.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I love that concept. Thank you for simplifying that for me.
Oh yeah.
Me too. I remember talking to, this was a patient several years back, and he worked in a warehouse, and he would talk about a lot of the produce that we get from overseas. And I know you've done this because I've done it before. You get bananas from the store, right? They look nice and ripe. 12 hours, maybe 24 hours later, you look and you're like, why are my bananas all brown now?
Yeah.
And he said, what we would do, we have these bare warehouse where they would hold food just for a short time, but they would spray something. And he didn't know what it was. He just worked there. He said, we spray all the produce and it locks in the color. This was his terminology. It locks in the color so that way it looks nice and shiny for another 7 or 14 days. So when you go to the grocery store, it looks nice, he says, but whatever they're spraying, it's not good stuff.
Yeah.
So I found that very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And you don't get that spray for looking nice at the farmer's market, do you?
No, you don't. Their produce often does look nice. Sometimes you'll get like pieces of produce that have a little bit of a spot here and there or whatever, and all that is sometimes it's actually bugs that come, and they'll also kind of taste the fruit a little bit and whatever. And what our farmer says is, look, that means that it's a good piece of fruit. That means that if the bug is eating it, that means that it's something that is valuable to the bug, and it will also be valuable to me. So he doesn't mind that, but he tries to limit, of course, what he brings to the market to the good-looking produce.
For produce, what's a good timeline from crop, right, from field to being able to purchase and consumption? What's our ideal window?
Well, so actually our vendors typically will harvest the day before
Wow.
So literally, either the day before or the day of, our microgreens vendor will sometimes harvest it there on the spot, or they'll harvest it right before they come to market. So you're getting like 1 day old produce basically, or less than that. But I would say that most of the time that produce needs to be sold in a week.
Okay. Getting a day, that gives you about a week to eat it. And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why you have it every week. So the idea is you go there and you're not purchasing food for a month. You go there and you purchase food that you would consume within the next week.
Yes.
You go back to the farmer's market or grocery store the following week and get what you need.
Yeah.
That's how it was decades ago.
Yeah.
We've just been spoiled with big box stores and, again, a lot of confusion that we have now.
Yeah.
So you have produce there. Anything else that's available currently at the Montgomery Farmers Market?
Oh yeah. So one of the biggest things, and something that to our knowledge no farmers market in our area is really doing, is that we provide a raw milk pickup at the farmers market. So if you don't know the laws about raw milk in this country, or in the state in particular, we're allowed to purchase directly from the farm, but raw milk cannot be sold in retail stores or at farmers markets. So the way that we need to operate in order to comply with the law and also get raw milk to customers is by making sure that all the orders are placed online from the farm directly, and then we actually go to the farm every week on Friday and pick up everybody's orders and bring them back in coolers, and then we deliver them to the farmers market. And if you don't know about the health benefits of raw milk, I would highly recommend that you go to realmilk.com and read about it. Raw milk has a lot of enzymes and probiotic bacteria in it that is helpful for the gut that pasteurized milk just doesn't have. And there's a lot of misinformation surrounding raw milk these days too. Of course, that's what people drank for hundreds of years, before.
Gosh, maybe thousands of years,
yeah, maybe
right?
thousands of years.
Yeah.
Before really the past 50, 60 years.
I still have patients that are maybe grandparent age, we'll say, right? The baby boomer, and they'll still tell me they remember growing up on a farm or nearby and milking the cow and drinking the milk.
Yeah.
And they're like, we did that. That was just normal for them.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's, again, for generations, that was how it was done.
Yeah.
We've heard of the benefits of milk and the pasteurization process. Some of you guys may be aware, but when they cook those high temperatures, it's like putting your food in the microwave. It deactivates all the good enzymes and it kills the good bacteria. Mm-hmm. So the probiotics, the good bacteria that were in the milk originally, we're actually destroying it. Yeah. Through the pasteurization process, and then we have to ship it in big containers. It's pumped full of antibiotics, so it's just a lot of things that are added to there and destroyed through that process. So
yeah,
I'm glad to hear that. When our children were little, we used to drive from here. Gosh, it was an hour and a half to get. We did raw goat's milk for them. We would do raw dairy and raw goat's milk. By the time we do raw goat's milk for them, we would drive an hour and a half one way to get the raw goat's milk from a farm, and then an hour and a half back, and we'd usually get enough. A couple would be frozen, so we'd get enough for maybe a week or two. Yeah. And we did that for years. So very cool that you guys have that here.
Yeah, it can be difficult to source raw milk, especially because the dairies are under such constraints in terms of how they can sell, and so there's not many of them. But the farm that we get it from is the Jersey Barnyard in LaGrange, and they have grass-fed and finished A2 Jersey cows. A2 just means that the genetics are really good for grass-fed cattle. And so
with that, do you all do any organic meats as well?
Yes, okay. We do. We have grass-fed and finished beef, and our family has never found beef that is as clean as the vendors who are selling at this market are. They are absolutely vigilant over their land, what gets put on it. They're obviously all grass-fed and finished, but they also make sure that any hay that's supplemented during the winter is completely clean. You have to consider things like, well, where's the hay coming from, and also, is the field next to it sprayed? If the field next to it is sprayed with pesticides or insecticides, a lot of that comes over onto the surrounding areas. And so they consider all those things. They do rotational grazing. They do things like compost teas, again, to put nutrients back into the soil. They plant forages that are nutrient dense for the cattle to eat. And so it's really a labor of love what these farmers are doing. And
so similar to the produce, the quality of the ingredients that the animals are consuming is directly passed on to us as we consume it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
So cool.
So.
Any other vendors out there? So we've covered produce, we've covered raw dairy, we've covered meats. Anything else out there?
Yeah, so we have a couple other items. A lot of the farmers will actually take their own ingredients and things that they have left over from things that weren't sold at the market or whatever, and they'll make other products. So we have jams and salsas and things like that. We also have a tallow-based skincare vendor. So she takes actually the tallow from the grass-fed and finished cows that are at the ranches that supply Montgomery Farmers Market, and she'll make some skincare products out of them using all organic ingredients. The rest of the ingredients are certified organic, and she uses only herbs. Some people are sensitive to other forms of fragrance, and we never endorse artificial fragrance, but even things like essential oils, sometimes people have reactions to for whatever reason, and so she uses only herbs in hers. And we have some other vendors as well, some microgreens vendors, like I mentioned. They produce little containers of microgreens that you can snack on throughout the day. You can add to sandwiches or anything like that. And the reason why you would want to do that is because microgreens are actually, they have something like a 50 or 60% higher nutrient density than your regular fully grown, fully mature vegetable. So if you have broccoli sprouts, basically broccoli microgreens, you could take a tablespoon of that and it would have significantly higher nutrient value than a tablespoon of broccoli. So adding some into your diet is a really good idea.
As I'm hearing you talk, I remember something that I heard many years ago. And the saying goes, you cannot medicate your way out of a lifestyle disease. And we see so many diseases and chronic illnesses that people suffer from directly related to lifestyle or from consumption of poor quality foods or foods that have toxins.
Yes.
And most people aren't even aware of it. You just don't even know. That's why I'm glad you're on here today, bringing awareness so people can now start to adjust and make better choices when it comes to what they're feeding themselves. And you're going to hear more and more about the microbiome. Right, over the last year, I've heard more about it than in past years.
Yeah.
And pretty much what that is inside of our gut, there's a whole ecosystem there. And they're finding links to what happens in our microbiome. It can turn on genes, off genes. It affects manifestations of different cancers, heart disease, pretty much any disease known to man. They're finding a direct connection to the microbiome. So when we consume these good quality foods like you're talking about, free of the toxins and foreign substances and rich in nutrients, it actually helps to strengthen our microbiome, which then has a domino effect of helping to prevent, and I don't even like to use the word treat necessarily, but helping to prevent and bring back into harmony and balance the state of someone's health. So very, very cool stuff. All right, now where are you at in Montgomery? How does someone connect with you? Farmers market, everything A to Z.
Yeah, so we're in the parking lot, the extended parking lot of Ransom Steakhouse in Montgomery City. So if you're on 105 and you're driving into the city of Montgomery from Conroe direction, you would turn right, and we're right there in the parking lot, and we're there every Saturday from 9 to 1. And you can...
Rain or shine?
So right now we're operating only sunshine or cloudy weather.
Just what?
Little light drizzle, we might be out there, but we'll let everybody know. You can follow us on social media, on our Facebook page at Texas Montgomery Farmers Market, or you can find us on Instagram at Montgomery Farmers Market. You can go to our website at montgomeryfarmersmarket.com, and you can put in your email there, and we'll send you weekly updates on what we're doing and the vendors we have.
Very cool. We'll put links at the bottom of this, so that way if you're driving, just click the link, get connected with Joshua in the farmers market and some of the amazing work that you're doing out there. Joshua, thank you for your time today. Any last words of wisdom for our audience today?
Oh no, we're just excited to see you.
Okay, you guys check it out, bring your friends, and again, as always, we're here to bring you information to improve your health and wellness through local businesses and organizations like Joshua in the farmers market of Montgomery. As always, wish you all the best in health, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.